Sit back, relax, and embrace your destiny. Welcome everyone to Guardian Radio, the first and longest running Destiny podcast on the net. You are tuned into episode 271. My name is Mark Turcotte, and joining me this week, as always, from the Dub Den, K-Dub. K-Dub, what's up, dude?
What's up, boys, man? I am so excited for tonight's show. This is going to be one of the best shows ever since Deej trolled me when we were talking to him. And I asked him about asking, you guys listen to the community so well. And he's like, what? And he trolled the hell out of me. So we have two awesome guys coming on from Bungie in regards to Gambit. The lead design and lead artists for Gambit are coming on. We're going to talk to them shortly. I am stoked.
Oh, yeah, man. We got a good one, definitely. And the other voice there you hear from the heart of Queens, our king of Queens, Mesa Sean. Sean, what's up, dude?
What's going on, guys? Yeah, super pumped to talk to these guys, really learn about it. Just, man, how did they come up with this whole thing from literally either whiteboarding it or, hey, I've got an idea. Let's combine these two things. So looking forward to talking to them. And, man, we got a whirlwind of a week. We have Iron Banner. We have Festival of the Lost. We have week 3 of the Curse, which means the Shattered Throne 3-man raid or 3-player raid was back. Yeah, lots of stuff to do, which means I got to put down Black Ops 4 for a little bit.
Oh,
people don't unfollow or unsub. I have so much gameplay. I want to make a video, but I'm afraid, man. Like, straight up, my audience, man, Destiny people, in my opinion, I'm generalizing, don't like Call of Duty, but I could hands down say this is the best multiplayer. And no, I'm not playing the Battle Royale. Best multiplayer Treyarch, Activision have ever made since Black Ops 2.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared.
Don't be scared of it. But what's up, everybody? Thank you here, as always, for tuning into the podcast. We appreciate it. However you're tuning in, whether it's through Podbean, through iTunes, your podcast service of choice, or through YouTube, thank you so much for making us a part of your week. Don't forget you can follow us on Twitter at Guardians of D, or email us feedback at theguardiansofdestiny.com. And yeah, like we've been hinting at here at the top of the show, this is a big episode this week, guys. It's going to be a little bit different than normal. We got the big interview coming up with Coolie and Robbie from Bungie to talk about Gambit, of course. So this episode, like I said, we're going to play the interview. That's going to be here just in a few short minutes. And then after that, we're going to kind of wrap it up. Just hit some quick news bits and then wrap. We're not going to dive into the news like we normally do.
I do want to say one thing.
Yeah.
I want to apologize, everybody. My mic gets jacked up during that interview. It gets disconnected, and I sound like I'm over the air. So apologies for my mic, but you can still hear it. The interview is amazing. Listen to the guys from Bungie.
You guys are going to love it for sure. But real quick here before we move on to that, I just want to go ahead and thank our first sponsor here on the show, and that is On Air PC. If you guys are looking for a way to stream yourself, either playing Destiny or whatever game you want to play on PC, On Air PC is the way to do that. All you got to do is call 330-850-1525. You can see the number in the show notes. Call Ryan and the crew over there. They're going to hook you up, basically get you on the phone, talk to you, ask you what game you want to play, how you want to stream it, whether it's YouTube, through Twitch, or whatever service you want to use, and they will build the PC custom for you rather than go to a website and click some boxes saying, the most expensive one must be the best one. No, that's not how Ryan and these guys work. They will build it specifically for you. Play on it for 24 hours. So this system, by the time you get it, has been played on. They know it works. They'll get back on the phone with you, help you set it up, and help you set up OBS or whatever service you're going to use to stream it and get you live and streaming. So again, go to call 330-850-1525. Again, it's in the show notes. What you got, Caleb?
I want to add one little quick thing to that. So our buddy Fallout Plays, that was on with us last week, his computer had a problem. He called Ryan. He has a computer coming from Ryan. Ooh. He's a big-time streamer. He's trusting those guys. Believe me when I tell you, if you want to get a computer, those are the guys to go to.
And believe me when I tell you that very soon we may be doing something very exciting with On Air PC. I'm going to tease that right now.
So, that's right.
Again, if you are looking to have yourself gaming on the internet, or hell, you just want to make the big jump to PC, 330-850-1525. IronRPC can help you out. Find it in the show notes, and they can get you streaming live and gaming very soon. Very soon. So, all right, guys. Well, let's move on here. We got a big one. This is a big interview. We hope you guys like it, and we'll be back after the interview here to wrap it up with you guys. So here we go. Here's Coolie and Rob. All right, everybody. Well, welcome back here, and joining us now, as promised, from inside Bungie Studios, the senior designer for Gambit, Robbie Stevens. Robbie, how are you, man?
I'm good. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yeah,
and
man.
Coolie. Yeah.
Glad to have you here. And, of course, that other voice you heard there, the senior artist for Gambit, Coolie Calihan.
That's me.
Coolie, what's up, dude?
Hey, what's going on, guys? How's it going?
Good, man. Glad to have you guys here. You know, we have just been playing the hell out of some Gambit, as I know many people have that have been playing Forsaken here. And that's, of course, what we're going to be talking about here on the show. But before we get rolling, I think I want to let our listeners know a little bit about each of you. So, Robbie, I want to start with you. I guess, how did you get started with Bungie, and what is your role at the studio?
Sure. So I've been at Bungie for close to 3 years now. I came over here from Maryland, Baltimore, Maryland, actually, where I was working at ZeniMax Online on the Elder Scrolls Online.
Ooh, nice.
And I'd worked on Star Wars: The Old Republic before that, so I kind of have some MMO pedigree professionally for me. But so that was before Bungie, and then like I said, I've been in Bungie close to 3 years. I started working here basically on Rise of Iron. I helped build some strikes for that. I built the strike scoring feature that came out in the Dawning originally for that, and then I worked with the strikes team on Destiny 2 vanilla strikes. So that would be things like the Pyramidium or Savathûn Song or Arms Dealer. That's some stuff I worked on, and then eventually I moved after Destiny 2 vanilla shipped. I kind of got put on the Gambit team with Coolie and people like Lars Bakken to incubate that idea. So that's been my rough time period at Bungie so far. And
Lars Bakken, never heard of that guy.
Yeah.
Never heard of that guy, yeah. And my role on the team basically is, like you guys said, like I'm senior designer, and my kind of subtitle is feature lead of the Gambit team. And what that means is I'm responsible for the day-to-day process of the team, for helping to manage the work that we're all doing, help to direct us in the feature and how we're building the feature and how we iterate on the feature. And it's also a big part of my job to be kind of collecting feedback both in playtest and externally from people like you and online and otherwise, to kind of pull it all together and work as a team on the product.
Gotcha.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's kind of my stuff, and so I'll pass it to Coolie now.
Yeah, Coolie,
And,
what is it that you do at the studio?
Cool guy
Man?
to work with. Oh, hey, yeah. So I've been at the studio for a while. It's over 7 years. It's crazy.
Wow.
Time flies.
Sweet.
You haven't seen any changes then at all?
It's exactly the same. It's been a cool ride. I started working right as Destiny got into production, and that was back in August of 2011. And so I started off working on just random destinations for a while on the Mars and the Moon team, and then pretty soon after that, I transitioned to the Crucible team, where I helped build Crucible maps for the majority of my time. And then right after D2 shipped, I heard these kind of like whispers going around the studio of this project called Gambit, and I was super interested because I heard that it was like going to be kind of a new activity sort of deal, and working on PvP. I just love working on maps. And it sounded like they're going to need maps for it, and so I kind of like schmooze my way into the picture a little bit.
Can you stop making things that I fall off of, please?
It's actually kind of funny. I had never talked much with Lars before, and I was actually helping to work the Destiny reveal event when we showed off D2.
Oh, yeah.
And I actually was just in the hotel lobby waiting to go back to Seattle. And I approached Lars because I had been kind of my name had been tapped to be one of the people to possibly work on the team, and so I kind of was talking to Lars. I was like, "Hey, man, nice to officially meet you. This opportunity sounds interesting." And it was kind of funny that it feels like ages ago at this point.
It does,
But anyway, it's been a fun ride so far.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool.
Well, that kind of leads me. I want to ask one quick question, which kind of leads us into where we would like to go with you guys. And
I was just looking at some stuff, and I remember reading this article before, but there was a PC Gamer article recently, or it was a little while ago, that said that Christopher Barrett back in early 2017 said to start thinking about an end game mode that would blend competitive play with PvE. Can you tell us about that and how that whole kind of went from brainchild to launch? I mean, I know that's ridiculous to go that far, but what have been the experiences from, all right, let's think this up, and where are we going from here, and how do we make this work?
Wow, yeah. It's, I guess it was like beginning of 2017.
Yeah,
we started.
Yeah. The team formed in the summer of 2017.
Right.
Yeah, and it started with basically the kernel was this desire to have something like trials from PvP for PvE players.
Right.
Like that was the initial desire, and that was kind of the initial direction. Mm-hmm. How can we put two teams against one another and weight their PvE abilities and have them kind of go head to head?
Right.
And that's kind of where it started. So actually, I think
it was Chris. I think it was Chris and Lars who were originally kind of pushing for it, because I think at that time Chris was still game director before he passed the torch to Steve.
Yep.
And so he was kind of they were looking for that thing that could kind of like spice it up and something new, something big.
Yeah, I remember one of the early meetings that we had with Chris Barrett, where we were kind of trying to get into his head a little bit of like of the type of experience he was kind of desiring as a director, and he's like, look, like I just want to be able to like jump on Twitch or YouTube or whatever, and I want to be able to like watch someone play and see them just annihilate a bunch of enemies and watch them do it so much faster than the team they're playing against, and be able to at a glance pretty quickly understand that just seeing that how good they are at that PvE and having the game react to it in some way.
Yeah.
And I know that's kind of a long description, but it actually, like, I remember myself at the time being like really kind of inspired by that, like about that fundamental idea of, okay, like how do we make this watchable? And that's kind of what he was getting at, is like a lot of decisions that we made in Gambit were kind of around the fact of, not only as a player, how can I look at the current state of the game quickly and understand, and that's where a lot of stuff like the status bars at the top of the screen came from, but also how can someone else who's watching on YouTube or watching on Twitch or whatever quickly look at a game once they know how it works and start to internalize what those things mean.
Right.
Seeing those clutch moments when both Primevals are up, the heart starts racing, or at least for me.
Yeah.
And then I see theirs go down, and then all of a sudden I hear, you're being invaded. I'm like, oh, I got to start moving around. I got to start looking around. And then literally it's getting so close, and then health goes back up. And it really does get the heart pumping when you've got two Primevals up, and you're both fighting to see who can get them down first. And then you start invading, and it's a really unique experience. I mean, for this franchise, and I think in other franchises as well, I would say.
Yeah. Cool.
So the interesting thing about it, we were kind of mentioned before, it started as a PvE thing. So the original thing started, basically the original prototype started as a 2-room box. And I'm going to pass it to Coolie here for a second to describe his thought process on creating that originally.
Yeah, well, it was pretty early on that we decided that we needed 2 different arenas. So the way that the map is actually set up is, each team has their own identical arena. And for a while we were actually thinking like, oh man, it'd be so weird to have like 2 identical arenas with both teams playing in it, right?
Yeah.
Like, are players gonna know? Like, are they, like, does that work? Because there are a lot of questions like that come up where it's like you're just like, oh, is this gonna be weird? Like, I don't know, but so we got the 2 different arenas in there, but they started off as these just really simple boxes, because when you're prototyping, you just need the most basic stuff to get the mode stood up. So we had these 2 rooms, and people were like, well, how are you going to know that you're playing against another team? It's going to be kind of weird if you're totally segregated.
This was before we had any UI at all. Pretty much the thing that we did early on was killing one AI gave you 1 point, gave you 8 points, and then so imagine you were playing like a Rumble match or something. The Rumble UI has 2 boxes, right? Yeah. For yourself and the other person. So imagine 2 teams, and it's like, so you kill one AI and see the box tick up once, and that's the only information you had. Anyway, sorry, cool.
Yeah. And then we had a glass wall
Yeah.
We had a glass wall.
I was going to ask you about that. That was
we tried the glass wall. It was terrible.
Yeah, we were like, at first we were all like, oh, this is going to be great.
Super excited.
Yeah, we were like, this is going to be great. You're going to be able to see what they're doing, and like, you're going to be able to kind of look over there and be like, oh, they're on like wave 6 and they're all supering. And what we found out really quickly was like, oh yeah, we're making a first-person shooter, so like you're so drilled down on your reticle and on your gun that you don't care what's happening over there.
You're not right. I'm trying to kill this, whatever whatever it is in front of me. I'm not looking over. What are they doing? Right.
Yeah.
So how did that evolve into, okay, let's come up with an invasion part?
Oh yeah, this is my favorite part of all development. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess we can give a little context here. So like before invasions were a thing, the thing we realized was, and kind of the where invasions came from was basically like, hey, we need a way for these teams to interfere with one another. That's the word we used originally, constantly. Of like,
I like it.
if this is a race, if you're running along a track against another person, how do you stick your leg out?
Yeah.
And just make them topple over, right?
Mario Kart bombs. How do we slow them down?
Yeah, exactly.
I stick like a stick into your bike spokes.
Yeah, yeah. And so like that was kind of like where we started from. And so one of those ideas where we started was okay, well, what if you could send AI? Like, what if you could send AI between the arenas? And that's actually where the blockers came from originally. And so that was the first thing we did. So we were able.
How far along are you guys in that? Like, where are you in time frame when you're coming up with those ideas?
Let's see. So the initial prototype probably was over the course between ideation and creation, probably about a month. And then blockers probably we call them interference squads originally. Right. And which is a really low, like that's a long word, interference squad. Like
Right.
That's really long. And actually, one of our tech designer Peter Sarah, who also does a lot of game design for us too, I think initially was like, why don't we just call them blockers, which was totally the right call.
Yeah.
But that was about 2 months in, close to 3 months in.
When we actually got the blockers stood up.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah. And so basically, what ended up happening was now it's like, okay, cool. Now we can kind of like. We can stop the other team from making progress for a little while by dropping these blockers on them. But it was still all driven by just killing AI. So you kill a bunch of Dragon captains, and then if you did enough, then an interference squad would show up. And so we were kind of missing a fundamental part of the core loop that actually drives you around the play space.
It was kind of like deterministic in a way. Like it wasn't as interesting because it was just like, kill the guys, and like whoever kills the guys faster ends up winning, and like. I don't know. It just didn't have like that spice to it. I guess
it didn't have any push and pull. And also the other thing is, it wasn't even though the PvE was we could tune it to be really difficult. It wasn't asking much more than just your mastery of your shooting skill. So that's when we started playing around with what we called originally trophies, which became the moats.
Yeah.
But originally we just called them trophies. The idea being, hey, when you kill a dreg, when you kill a
whatever
captain,
the economy is.
Exactly. Like they're going to drop a trophy that shows that you earned that kill, right?
Right.
And so the whole idea of the trophy concept then turned into, all right, now there's a risk reward of picking up these trophies, then having to take them to a central part in the map, and that will become the bank. Originally we called it the beacon. The idea being that like, all the enemies want to swarm to the beacon. But another thing we realized very early was like, no, this gameplay loop is a lot more interesting if you're actually asking players to move out into the fronts of the map. Each map generally has 3 major fronts. So the idea was like, okay, now players have many more decision points that they have to make. It's no longer I'm just going to stand here and kill things.
It's like a horde mode.
It's closer to a horde mode where you actually have to move out into the map and figure out how you're going to chew through these encounters, grab your trophies, and take them back to the bank.
That's when I always fall off because of Coolie's design.
The one map, I forget the name of it. The one that has all the falling areas. It's very kind of dark and eerie looking.
Kell's Grave.
Kell's Grave. And if it's Scorn, I'm like, oh boy, I got to change up my weapons.
Jumping out of Vex Milk kind of sucks. Just so you know.
I gotta stay away from those screebs. Those screebs are gonna kill me, insta kill me.
Well, it's funny, guys.
You're out of nowhere.
Yeah, we have an internal thing for screebs where we just scream screebs.
Yeah,
when
the
they
lab
show up.
fills with screebs. Like screeb.
Yeah.
Watch out.
Sorry, we're kind of taking a journey here on these prototypes. So like I think the map plus the trophies plus the blockers, which were called interference squads at the time, we're about 2 to 3 months in. And again, the thing Coolie mentioned before, where we weren't feeling enough push and pull between the teams. A team who got ahead and like would drop a bunch of blockers would just gain an advantage. So we need something to help swing the matches back. And so basically we had talked about it as a team a little bit, and one of our original pillars was actually, and by pillars I mean one of like our kind of guiding principles of the mode was actually that there would be no PvP. Right. This was supposed to be a PvE trials thing, but there'd been a lot of discussion on the team, and so I came in one day and Lars and I sit next to each other. And I kind of leaned up to Lars's desk. And
Did you say Death Heals Primeval?
I got a story about that in a little while. But so I leaned up against Lars's desk, and I say, "Death Heals." No. I look at him. I go, "Hey man, I really think we want players to shoot one another." And he was like, "Are you sure?" And we're just looking at each other, and like I kind of look over at my desk and I see Coolie just nodding, just nodding vigorously, like yes. And I'm like, yeah, man, we really have to do it. And Lars is very, he's all about trying new ideas, about iterating. He didn't throw up any roadblocks, but he definitely was. I don't want to say concerned, but he was apprehensive at first. But we got it into the game. We got it connected to depositing trophies in the bank, to turn on a teleporter that the player uses. And within the first play test, we kind of knew we had something. We at least knew there was something that it became way more interesting than it was before, and there were way more decisions to make. We had always been trying to design the mode around a bunch of different roles, and the fact that now there was an entire role for just PvP players to come in, because one of the discussions we were having as a team fundamentally was like, Destiny at its core is a game that asks you to do a little bit of everything, right? Like the way the powerful gear is set up in Forsaken right now, the way the milestones, used to work and everything, it asks you to kind of go out into the game and try a little bit of everything. And so we're already encouraging this omnivore behavior. And so we're looking at the product that we were making, and we're like, okay, Destiny's best as a social game. It's best as a game where you can bring friends in who might be amazing at PvP or amazing at PvE or otherwise, and you can get together and just go and have an outlet to enjoy what we kind of refer to as the best aspects of these things.
Yeah, what if we bring all of that together in one place, like all of the different parts of the Destiny sandbox, like Crucible and, shooting AI and all that kind of stuff into one cohesive experience, and our engine let us do it, pretty easily.
Yes. And
we could prototype things pretty quickly. I think that's another thing that really helped us, find the fun, was that we could come up with an idea, as crazy as it sounded, and then we could have it in the lab in a couple of days.
Yep.
That's awesome. Well, it's funny, man, because we actually, I mean, this is something that I know we've kind of just discussed amongst ourselves. Like, how cool would it be if we were on a PvP map and suddenly there was AI kind of in the whole area? And we went to the summit, and when we were there, we kind of walked in the room, and you guys were like, all right, we have this new game mode. I think it was Lars that introduced it. And the first thing out of his mouth, and I remember my jaw was hit the floor, was he was like, we got this new game mode for you guys, and it's kind of like Super Puzzle Fighter. And we were all just kind of like, what? Like, what do you, but then when you actually play the game mode and you think about like a game even like that or like Tetris, you're playing your own little PvE space, and yet you're shooting over ways basically to just screw the other team over. And when you look at just Destiny and pulling all that together, it just makes sense. In the end, in hindsight, we look back at this game mode just makes sense, and I think hearing you guys, how you came about it is just, it's intriguing. Like the depth that the game mode ends up having really maybe wasn't there initially, but as you play tested it, it just kind of seems like it just kind of bubbled to the top, and then you realize kind of what you had.
Totally.
Yeah, we definitely, I think the one of the guiding principles of the team was like, we should just try it, right? Like we should just, if we think it's going to be fun, we should just try it. And so we definitely spent a decent amount of time in paper design, but then after that first kind of couple weeks of paper design, we really started just putting things in the editor. And that's when we started finding the fun. And then that's when we started to drill deeper down into details to add more depth and interest to the game mode. I mean, one thing that we saw, really successful from PvE stuff, which happens in raids a little bit more, but also strikes sometimes, where players have defined roles they take on. Right. It's just like, oh, I'm running the carry object, or I'm standing on the plate, or I'm going to do the call outs, right? Like, even though Gambit has fungible roles, fundamentally we still try to define the Slayer, the person who is the best at killing AI, the Collector, the person who's the best at picking up the motes, the Defender, the person who's kind of on the bank, and clearing out the blockers. Coolie, and then the Invader, who has Sleeper, right? And so yeah, like we
Nobody
we're
uses
taking
sleeper. We're
learnings
talking
from
about
other
sleeper.
parts of the game, right? Like we're taking learnings from the other parts of Destiny and try to put them together in new and interesting ways. So,
Awesome.
Well, I mean, I guess
I'm sorry, Mark. I wanted
No,
to
go
ask
ahead.
one other thing about the push and pull that you were saying. So, one of the mechanics, and I forget the name of it. So, when the first team spawns their Primeval, they have like a damage bonus.
yeah,
But
the
then
Primeval Slayer. Yeah.
But when the second team spawns theirs is greater, right? To try and help them catch up. Explain that if you could.
So to be clear, the team that summons first will always have more Primeval Slayer than the team that summons second. The only reason that a team that summons second might catch up a little bit faster is because they killed their Primeval Envoys first. So what we have during that phase is basically what we like to refer to as a tow line. So if Team 1 gets far ahead in their Primeval Slayer stacks, we start to give the team that's behind what we refer to as bonus stacks. So as soon as they spawn it, they might have a stack or two. And that's to keep basically elasticity between the two groups so that if you fall too far behind, you have a chance to come back during that phase. And we've seen a lot of feedback on it, and we're looking at it ourselves and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so there are some tweaks we've been play testing recently, and we're looking at. So that is something that you can expect a couple of changes to in a future update.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
I think you always want to have something like that, though. It's kind of like somebody mentioned Mario Kart earlier. Like Mario Kart has that rubber banding effect. Like you still want to at least keep the match fun, right? I mean, you don't want to have somebody just totally blow the other team out. Although there are some players out there when it comes to Gambit that would like to have
They just
that.
give
right?
up.
But,
Yeah,
but,
we indexed really hard on like what's just going to be the most fun. Like we care about competition and about proving and about people being able to show their prowess. But at the same time, we play tested Gambit a lot where there was no Primeval comebacks, and the first team would summon, and the second team would just want to set their controllers down, right?
Yeah.
So it's something that we fundamentally we want it to be a fun game mode, and that's what we index on first.
Yeah,
well,
for sure.
Like Caleb and I, we're big MOBA players. We used to play the heck out of Paragon from Epic.
Nice.
And when you play a MOBA, it's somewhat similar where you have this PvE experience, but of course you're battling for PvP. But kind of like you said, some of those matches you get to a point and it's like, man, we've already spent 10 minutes. We're way behind. There's no way we're going to win this match. What was there any inspiration from the MOBA side of things, or seeing what other games do in that sense, in terms of adding, I don't know, just different mechanics to Gambit at all? Or is anybody playing MOBAs over there or anything?
So an interesting thing about that is when we talked about the roles a lot, right? Roles partially came from what we were making in Destiny as a product from PvE for strikes and raids, like I mentioned, but also, yes, there very much is some MOBA inspiration in the mode because at the end of the day, when you're killing AI, it's kind of like you're farming creeps, right?
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
It's kind of like that's what you're doing. And actually, one of our other senior devs on the team, his name is John Sova. He came on the product a little bit later. I think it was September or October of 2017. Mm-hmm. And when he came onto the team, actually, there was no Primeval encounter.
The Primeval was actually a lucky kind of accident. It was a happy accident because we had a tiebreaker essentially. So if both teams, if time ended and both teams had the same motes in the bank, we would summon a tiebreaker, and it was like a boss or something. And one day, I think we just kind of happened to hit it. And because we had never seen it before, we were just like, maybe we'll throw this in there. I mean, correct me if I'm
that's entirely right. Yeah, it just happened.
It just happened, and then we're like, holy cow, this is amazing.
Yeah,
like, we need this every game.
Yeah, and it was this interesting confluence of things because John had come onto the team, and he actually plays a lot of MOBAs and stuff, and he was actually expressing a desire for a thing, for a social beat where the teams want to collapse together on something, right? Or an invader can come in and try to mess with the team, trying to get a big target. So that's partially where things like the high value target came from, as a concept of hey, it's a bonus enemy that roams through the map, and if you invade, you can stop players from killing that target, and the HVT will go away. Also, a little fun fact that most people don't really know unless they played a bunch of Gambit is you can actually pick up motes as an invader.
Yeah.
You can't kill AI.
I did realize I killed a guy at 15. He dropped them all in front of me, and I picked them all up. I went and hid. I waited for the timer to run out, and I went back and deposited them into my bag.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize it, but that's actually a strategy you can play. And so, that's like a social beat where the team wants to kind of collapse together, they kill that HVT, or you burn a super. But then that Primeval overtime thing, that was the beat that John was kind of looking for. Yeah. And it was so powerful. John kind of took on the Primeval encounter as his as he worked on a couple maps while me and Coolie worked on a couple maps as well. From a design and encounter side, but then John kind of took on the Primeval as his main baby to make as good as possible, and it really made the mode a lot more than it was before. Before, when it's kind of just the modes phase, it was a really fun experience, but you get to 75 modes or 100 modes in the bank, and the match would just kind of end, and you're like, wait, what happened? Like,
it was kind of like it didn't have that punch of an ending. It was just kind of like, meh, you did it.
Yeah, it's like you needed a crescendo with music coming in and lieutenants surrounding this thing. I'm sure it went from night and day adding that to the game.
Oh my gosh, like the day we got music, like it made the game so like it. I remember walking out and just feeling like, here it is. Here it is. We did it.
Who came up with the all right, by the way?
All right.
Oh my god.
That's Jonathan Toe, one of our writers, who is an avid McConaughey fan. No, I'm kidding.
I don't even know how he got McConaughey out of it, but like he just took Drifter and ran with them and took him to this awesome place. Yeah,
I've actually worked.
He's got some awesome lines. He's like, shoot the ball.
Yeah, Jonathan's worked on Destiny for a couple years now, and I actually had worked with Jonathan previously at ZeniMax and stuff, and it's great. I love having him on the team. He and I have just been making jokes about things for 4 or 5 years now. So
people would get
fun.
salty in the labs when they would hear that your team sucks.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And they would give them feedback. They'd be like, you can't do that. That's just too mean.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad he kept it, because it's just. You know, if it gets people talking, if it gets people to kind of, share about the game, I think as long as it's not,
well, he says he goes, your team sucks.
Just
kidding.
on my PlayStation, I'm okay.
Right. Yeah.
Quick question for you. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, like, fundamentally, he's a great character, right? Like, then that was
brilliant.
Like that was our guiding light for him. Is he's not Shaxx, and he's not he's not Zavala or Ikora, right? He's not Kate either. He's a little bit
like a bounty hunter. He's awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll one quick thing to that. I have to give a shout out to Sheik for the art director on the project for he had a lot of really great insight too as to like, hey, like let's not just make another like standard mode. Like let's kind of like evolve let's like move the franchise forward a little bit in the sense of like let's create more storytelling opportunity for this activity. And so that's where the ready room comes from. That's where like the derelict comes from. And you actually see Drifter in the space and he's performing for you, and you see him up there and you see the other team. Like all of that stuff kind of came out of this desire to push and like, hey, like let's build on top of this. So it's not just another, coming out of orbit and then going into the map and getting yanked back out. Like let's add more to this to flesh it out a little bit more.
I will say it's funny watching the difference of when you first drop in and everybody's emoting and being all aggressive and whatnot, and then you just smoke the other team. Now what is there? Now what are they emoting? Are they just not emoting anymore?
Yeah. Controllers down.
Another interesting story about the ready room was actually the whole kind of intro cinematic where Drifter reveals the coin. Originally, like Coolie and me and people on the team were like, all right, like we can just do. Why don't we cut down to the map and like show a captain if you're about to fight the Fallen, he can like scream into the camera and stuff. And we were kind of excited about some ideas like that. But then we started talking to our people that do the animations and the work on our NPCs. And one of the leads of that team, a guy named Leo Martinez, we were sitting down with him and we were talking with him about this idea. And he's like, do you want to highlight the Drifter more? And I was like, yeah, that's probably a good idea. And it was like, but what, like, how should we reveal this race? And I was kind of, we started talking about cards, but eventually he's like, what about a coin? What if he just like showed a card or showed a coin or something? And like that moment, I remember like sitting back in my chair, and because all the artists started talking, and in my head I was just like, this is gonna be awesome, right? Like totally. Like one of the funnest things about being a dev or a designer is like you kind of start with an idea of an experience, which the goal here was, hey, how do we tell players the race they're about to fight so that they can change their loadout, they can change their subclass, do whatever they need to do, and how can we do it in an interesting way? And we went to our artists who think about this stuff a lot and think about representing characters really well, and then they came back with the coin trick basically, and you look at it now and you're like, it's incredible, right? Like I'm just blown away by it, where people will take ideas and these goals and just make them so much more than what they are. And it's something I love about working at Bungie is just people at the top of the game doing that kind of stuff all the time.
So
it's awesome.
playing Gambit with friends, it's so unique in terms of as opposed to Crucible, where it's kind of like, okay, just who's going to kill who. Whereas with Gambit, you've got your designated, like we discussed before, the designated Slayer. He's going to be the Invader. I'm going to be the Moat Collector. I'm going to be the take care of the blocker and guard the bank and so forth. And playing with a team is just a blast. However, playing solo, it's a bit difficult when you're usually facing full set of teams. Would it ever be possible or a consideration to have maybe a rotating freelance playlist where it's just solo queue for maybe like 1 week straight, kind of like how we had freelance? I think it was freelance control, I believe, in Destiny 1. Would that be something that you might consider?
A solo only, yeah.
I mean, it's hard to speak to that. I'm as not.
Yeah, if you can't,
if you can't.
We totally understand.
It was just on the top of my mind.
It's just one of those things where I think splitting up the matchmaking pool does things that it's could potentially make the game the wait time sort of like unacceptable. I think to some people. So yeah.
I mean, I think from a design standpoint, Robbie, and I'm sure you can, either confirm this or whatnot, but it seems like the game mode really was built to be team-based, right? I mean, here we were talking about MOBAs. MOBAs play better with a team, right? If you go into a solo queue of a MOBA, chances are you're not going to have a good experience. Playing with a team and friends, it's always going to be better, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing to remember, or the thing that we're really, our guiding light for the stuff, our goals are that, like, Destiny is a social game, right? Mm-hmm. It's at its best. It's at its best when you are playing with friends, or maybe even people you don't know. And so what that meant for us was we believe that team play was extremely important because that's where you get the depth out of the mode. But we also designed it in a way so that people who do play by themselves can be effective. They can change the match. Mm-hmm. If you're a really good effective Invader, you can change the match. If you're a really good Invader or a really good Collector, you can change the match. It's something that we worked really hard on, and we definitely, we see the friction and stuff, but at the same time, being in a team is better if you're all communicating because you're all communicating, but we definitely didn't design the mode specifically only for groups of teams.
Yeah. I mean, let me ask you this, because it's something I have two different play styles, whether I'm playing in a team or I'm playing solo, and I've succumbed to my solo play style being the guy with a scout rifle that's high impact that just stands at the bank and just kills things so that my teammate can collect motes. I then pick up the heavy and I invade. That's kind of what I do when I'm solo. Is that, do you guys have other tips for how to run solo mode, what's maybe effective?
I actually think the thing you just said is really important. And if we're going to read between the lines of what you said, is you basically have analyzed the behavior of your teammates, right? And what you noticed was hey, a lot of these guys are trying to hog the moats right now. So I think I'm going to hang back. And actually, that's my biggest recommendation for people who have been playing a lot of Gambit and doing a lot of solo queuing. Do not don't get so focused on just heading in one direction. If you always play the Invader, but you see someone else hanging out next to the portal, maybe give them a shot, right? Maybe they don't do great, and you notice that, and you're like, you know what? I'm going to do it next time. Sorry, bud. But I think that's the best thing you can do as a solo player, and that's actually Coolie and I. A lot of us we play by ourselves a lot because our schedules don't always line up. So
I play solo all the time.
Yeah, so it's one of those things that we're running into a lot, where the best thing you can do is just observe what your team is doing and then fill in that gap that you as a decent Gambit player can start to understand because you played the mode a lot.
Sure. I appreciate that feedback because I'm so focused on trying to do everything, kill ads, collect all the motes, whereas I really should be analyzing what my teammates are doing and all right, this guy is really good at collecting because he's taking all of my motes. Maybe I should.
Right. Because you're running around with 9 and you can't get that 10th.
Yeah. I'm like, you know what? Let me sit back. You know what? I guess it goes back to know your role based on what you observe from your teammates. That's some really good feedback, guys.
Yeah, and also the other thing too is it's part of the reason why the mode is best of 3, right? Mm-hmm. We realize that if you're going in by yourself, especially, that hey, that round 1, it maybe doesn't go the best because you never played with those people before, but that's okay. That's why there's a round 2 or then a round 3, right? That's something we felt really early on, where we actually started as best of 5, and Gambit matches went on 40 minutes. They were long. Yeah. They were long, but so we shortened them up. We kind of tightened everything up. But that's a big part of why it's round based, right? It's so that you can have a chance to adjust to the things your team is doing or what the other team is doing.
Yeah.
I have a question for Coolie. So with the art of, obviously, look, the art in Destiny has always been. I have all the art books, and the art is amazing, right? So, talk to me about. I'm assuming that you helped draw and design like the bosses and the different part of the obviously the maps. But were you involved in designing the meatball at all?
I wish. I'm pretty focused on environments. Map stuff. Yeah, we have a pretty amazingly talented. I mean, there are so many artists at Bungie that do so many different things, and I think that's maybe one of the things I like about working here the most is that I get to really focus on the area of the game that I am most interested in, which is the level design and how the level looks and how the level plays.
So walk me through that. Like, how do you start? Like, okay, I have a certain area, I have a certain goal. Like, this is going to be a control map. This is going to be a Gambit map. Like, walk me through your design process a little bit.
Totally, yeah. It definitely does start with the gameplay. I mean, it's always gameplay first. And with Gambit, it was an awesome new challenge because it was an activity that didn't exist. So we could invent the rules. We got to kind of come up with what this was. And we went through so many versions, man. Like we had like, I think there's like 11 test maps that like never saw the light of day.
Yep.
Just because we were trying stuff out. So that was another great thing about this project is that we got a lot of support from people to kind of like, we had a good little chunk of time to prototype and try things out and just kind of experiment and see how things are going to come together. But it definitely starts with like a game mode or a type of experience. You know, the whole reason I work at Bungie is because I got to meet Chris Carney when I was in college, and Chris Carney is a legendary map developer who worked on the Halo games, and you know, he'll talk about, you know, watching like Black Hawk Down or just like getting inspiration from like a movie or anywhere and just trying to recreate that scene. So the inspiration can come from a lot of different places, but for Gambit, it was definitely, you know, once we kind of had our like, all right, we got our bank, we kind of want players to be moving through the level, so we came up with the 3 fronts idea. And then we wanted you to have a safe place to spawn so that every time that you run into the map, you can kind of come from it with the wind at your back. You get a lay of the land every time you come into the map. So like, you know, on Emerald Coast, you always got trees to the left. You got ruins up ahead and beach to the right. And so just kind of like reinforcing that over time by giving players the same way to come into the space was important. But you know, with each map, it was different. Like on Kel's Grave, I was working with John Sova on that one, and he really wanted to push the verticality for that map. And he's like, what if we just, you know, I remember he was like, let's make this a really vertical map. And I was like, yeah, cool. And I, you know, went back to my desk and kind of pushed some things around, and I went back to him. I was like, hey, what do you think? He's like, yeah, no, not enough, more verticality. I was like, all right, we're really gonna do this. So, you know, I like bumped it up even more. And that's when the pit started coming in. That's where those sort of poison areas came in, because when you have that much verticality in a map, you can get into places where you actually can't double jump to make something. And so that sort of vertical space gives sort of the player a sense that like, I can't just run up to an edge and jump. I need to actually think about how I'm going to get there. And so that was a really exciting.
So that's when I fall into the Vex milk right there.
You might be tuning it out a little bit. I don't know.
Dude, the designs are amazing, and
thanks.
You know, it's literally. I mean, it's a challenge when you have those maps where you have to be careful of where you're landing when you need to go from point A to point B. It does add another element of, oh crap, I got to be careful, and I'm a Titan. So
it's just another element of Destiny, right, Caleb? I mean, the verticality that Destiny as a shooter brings to the table is also represented in Gambit. I mean, Gambit is the mode that just shows everything off that Destiny has to offer. Yep. It's kind of the mode that now, like, you know, if you're trying to tell somebody, oh, let me tell you about this game, Destiny, like, this is the mode to show someone. It's like there's always something for you, no matter what type of player you are, you can do something in this game mode. For sure.
It's going to be amazing to see Gambit evolve based off player feedback and your internal feedback with future, you know, content expansions and DLCs and maps and things like that. And I mean, the weapon pool is absolutely amazing. I mean, I play every day trying to grind for that perfect trust or distant relation or bygone. I mean, I get killed by bygones in PvP so much.
I just try to cluster bombs, man.
I keep trying to get a good buy gods, but I'm just not good with that scope. So I'm just trying to work a little bit.
I do have a question regarding the Primeval. So,
Okay.
Mark and I are both Titans, and I always run Solar Titan with Melting Point because it's just look. You take down the envoys. You make sure you don't even. This is my plan. I take down the envoys. I don't do any damage to the boss. I wait for the invader. We take the invader. We attack the boss. That's kind of my plan. I use Melting Point, and we take him down pretty quickly. In your design of this game mode, like what kind of thought processes did you have as far as taking down the boss, different things that are going to be effective? Maybe it's not so much this, so much that. But what kind of where were you guys kind of going with that?
Yeah.
So we had two main goals for the Primeval encounter. One was you can't burn the boss as soon as it spawns. So that manifested in two ways, which is the boss has a pretty deep health pool, but also there's a really meaty encounter with it, with the snipers, the envoys, all these other things that are going to push you back pretty hard off of the bank platform. The second thing, our second major goal was there needs to be enough time for at least one invasion, right? There has to be at least the encounter needs to take long enough so an invader can come through and disrupt your team and try to swing the match back in the other in your team's favor. And so those were kind of our two main guiding lights for that, because we knew that hey, the mode is going to fall apart if people can burn it as soon as it spawns.
Right.
And invasion was such a key important part of it, especially with Death Healing Primeval, that we wanted to ensure that there was enough time for the team to have a chance to swing the match back if they could. And actually, originally there was, from the original design, Death did not heal Primeval. That was just.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
When did that change? By the way, when did that change?
Okay, so that was probably, I have to think, that was probably that was actually right before the Destiny community event actually that we held at the beginning of 2018. So that was about we were rushing. We had to get a build ready for both community event and E3. It was kind of a tough time for the team because there's a lot we were working on, but. Death Healing Primeval, I think, came in about 2 weeks or something like that before we had that community event build cut off.
Right.
And at the time, we had all these discussions of how do we communicate that to player from a text description perspective? It's really funny.
A big giant message that says Death Heals Primeval.
Yeah. What the hell's a Primeval?
Yeah, there's all these kind of hoops you have to jump through to get there. But the thing that John did a really good job of was he worked a lot on actually how much it healed and how often that healed tick, so that you got that really good chunky feeling when the health bar actually fills up. If you actually are looking at the health bar when it goes up, or you actually see it kind of chunk up. And John and Peter worked really hard on that, and it shows in the product. But then when we were discussing what do we do? How do we describe this mechanic to people? I was actually sitting down with Jonathan Toe, our writer, and we were just sitting there and we were just spitballing. We're like, Invader kill heals Primeval, that makes sense, but that's a really long real long name, right? And it's just all these other things. And I was kind of sitting there and I'm happy to take credit for this one because I think it's the text that I came up with that is the most people have ever read, which is, and I kind of sat there and I leaned back in the chair and I was like, Death Heals Primeval? As a question, right?
Yeah.
And we kind of just looked at each other and we're like, all right,
that works.
Let's do it. Yeah, because the other major thing we wanted to do there was make sure that really reinforce that that, hey, when that invader is there, when that red screen is up and then that red text comes up, obviously you're probably not going to build that correlation immediately, but by those things all happening at the same time, eventually over time you'll start to understand, when I get that red invader screen, when I see that timer on the screen, when I'm dying to things and I see Death Heals Primeval, you can start to put those pieces together. It made you scared of dying, right? It made you fundamentally scared and put you on edge. And that's why we opted for that instead of something like Invader kill heals Primeval, because it solved the puzzle for you, right? It just told you exactly what happened, and there is no puzzle there. So we wanted players to actually have to think about that phase a little bit, right?
Yeah.
As they're working their way through it. So
how did you guys come up with let's have an overshield and that type of and change the screen? You made it red, so we obviously know. How did that thought process go? Okay, the screen goes red for everybody, and the invader has an overshield.
So I think that's the trickiest part. And when we were at E3, Robbie was at GuardianCon, and I got a chance to go to E3, and I had a chance to talk to a couple other developers, and everybody that works on a hybrid activity where there's PvP and PvE will tell you how how hard it is to get people to not just rage and like throw their controller away. In the middle of shooting a PvE enemy and another player comes in and shoots you in the side of the head, it is one of the most infuriating things that you could ever have happen to you in a game. And so we spent so many cycles, trying to figure out how to tell people that there was an invader in their arena. And I think this is just another testament to like how interdisciplinary the process was in terms of having like all of the developers. Like I think this was maybe one of the most important feedback cues we needed to tell people that there was an invader in the arena. And it was all VFX. It was all the Sandbox team VFX artists, and then it was just the VFX team who did the pass to like make the arena turn red.
Roll that red fog in. Yeah.
And like we dialed it up. Like we kept dialing it up. Like people would still be like, I just didn't see the invader, and I need to know that there's an invader, and the audio team, doing work there. So it was it really took a village to get that message across, and that was so important to have players understand.
So to loop back a little bit, the original thing we realized as we were kind of putting PvP into the mode really early on was fundamentally we still wanted PvE prowess to be one of the most important things. PvP can be how you win the match. It can be these critical moments where a team can come back or can catch up. But we fundamentally, it's supposed to be a mode about PvE. And so what that meant was we started with, okay, you're going to have a limited time. That's what we started with first. So
the invader.
For the invader, yeah. The invader has a limited time because, again, it's about these spikes of PvP action that shifts your thinking. Let's not mess too much with the PvE. So the invader would jump in and we played that, and it's like, okay, this is pretty fun, but it's actually really hard to chase down people in like 30 seconds on a map if you don't know where they are. Right? Like it's interesting because there's discussion about like how strong the invader should be, but the thing is we did a lot of playtesting where the invader had very little information and just only had a limited amount of time. And again, that limited amount of time is really important for all the people who don't play PvP all the time. And we understand that, right? That it is a hybrid mode. It's not just a PvE mode. And so the thing we were trying to balance the entire time was, hey, there needs to be just enough PvP so there's a lot of strategy and you can bring your PvP buddy in and they can do an amazing job. But we don't want, this isn't Crucible, right? This isn't about shooting players all the time. If you and your team are just better at killing the AI and doing the Primeval encounter, the other team
you can beat an ultimate PvP team, right?
Yep.
Yeah, and so it kind of started with just the timer, and then we layered on the waypoints basically, and then the thing we realized was as people got better at the mode, the invader was having a really hard time playing 1v4, so that's when we threw on the overshield, right? We kind of put pieces on at a time, and for a long time the invader overshield was like stupid big, like
Claude looked at it, he was like what, that number? No.
Yeah. He's like that. That can like tank an entire super, and we're like, yeah, why not, right?
That's funny.
So yeah, we played around with a lot of those balances a lot. And then so after we got all that, and then that's when the feedback mechanisms Coolie was talking about really started coming in, making sure when that invader comes in, the screen like stabs. It's subtle, but like once you start to catch on to these things, you can really react to it in the mode. One thing that I felt very strongly about when we were making this, and I was giving feedback to the VFX team was, hey, that invader, I need to be able to glance across the arena, and if they're moving around or they're hiding around a corner, I need to see them. And that's kind of where the thing I always said is like, can you make them look like a meteor that's just like rolling around the map, right? And if you look at the product now, that's kind of what it is.
Kind of what it is, yeah, man.
So, it's all these things we thought for these game modes, for these like competitive game modes, right? Like we want to give the players as much feedback as possible so that they can strategize around it, right? So you can call that out. And even Coolie was talking about the map design. The 3 fronts thing was actually partially we talked about doing 4 or 5 fronts for a while, and like maybe even between rounds 1, 2, and 3, you go to different
fronts or something.
You go to different arenas and stuff. But the thing we realized really early on was like, hey, if we're going to do these call outs for the drifter calling out,
I need to know where trees is, right?
Yeah, exactly. And so. It was a lot of these initial like grand ideas that kind of got boiled down into more simple experiences. But at the end of the day, those simple experiences are more powerful because it gives you guys as players and our other players the opportunity to like master these maps and master these feedback mechanisms.
Right.
All right. Well, guys, I don't want to hold you much longer, but I got to ask this question here, of course, at the end. And I know there's not much that you can reveal to us, but not necessarily about what's coming next specifically, but I guess kind of where you guys are right now in terms of the state of Gambit. You know, are you now iterating more on what's already there and kind of maybe balancing within the mode that's there? Or are you, of course, working on either some new maps or some new changes that may be coming down the line that, are just set to make Gambit fans just happier? What is it that you guys are?
I think I'm pretty sure I just heard Deej like stomping down the stairs.
Oh, he's not listening. Don't worry, he's not listening.
Down the door.
Yeah. So I'm going to say two things, and I'm saying them because we've already talked about them publicly or announced them in some ways. Which is, I kind of mentioned before, there's going to be some quality of life updates coming up here in a future update to things like Gambit bounties and how often you're earning rewards and some slight tweaks to that Primeval encounter. So you can expect that in a future update. And then beyond that, Joker's Wild next year is focused around Gambit and focused around Drifter and expanding on him and expanding on Gambit as an experience. And so that's about as much as I can say because that's what we've announced.
Gotcha.
But there's going to be some really meaty stuff for players to chew in not too far away. So
I can't wait to see where you guys go with the Drifter, because when I listened to him in the Warden of Nothing strike, I don't know, he just sounds like he might be a bad guy down the road that we have to contend with at some point, I think.
Yeah, you shouldn't trust the Drifter. That's all I'm going to say.
I have no problem shooting Matthew McConaughey, just so you know. Hey, I do have one other question for Coolie before we go. So,
Sure.
with all the art that you've done with Bungie and with all the stuff that you've done with the maps, what's the thing that you're the most proud of? Wow, I created that. That's awesome.
Well, this project has certainly been a lot of fun, and it's not every day you get to work on something new and exciting like this. So, so far, Gambit has certainly been a highlight for sure. But I've loved working on Crucible. I love multiplayer games. I grew up playing Halo and Call of Duty and Command and Conquer and all that stuff.
I'm going to help you guys. Cooley, what's your favorite Crucible map you made?
That was my next question. What's your favorite map?
Shoot. Well, favorite Gambit map has got to be Kel's Grave. I mean, it has a Penny Arcade comic written about it.
It's true.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is.
So there's that, and then I think my favorite Crucible map, probably Midtown.
I was going to say Midtown. I like it. I think Cooley did an amazing job on Midtown. So.
Yeah, I like it.
Favorite Halo map, Cooley. Favorite Halo map. Go.
Favorite Halo map? Oh gosh, that's
I know
tough.
that's where you wanted to go. You want to talk some Halo, but
yeah, I want to say Blood Gulch just because
classic.
But that's almost too easy.
Yeah.
So I'll give you
give me that deep cut.
What's
that deep cut Halo map?
Yeah. I would say Turf.
Okay.
One of my all-time favorites.
Nice.
I've been trying to capture the essence of that map for a while and haven't quite got it yet. So I'm gonna keep trying.
Awesome. All right, guys. Well, again, we appreciate you guys stopping by.
Thanks so much,
anything
guys.
you want to say out to I guess the Destiny fans out there playing Forsaken right now, or anything you want to throw out to the Gambit players?
Yeah, I just want to say we've been blown away by the response. The team in general is just so happy to see everyone jumping in and having a great time. And we're looking at Twitter, we're looking at Reddit, we're looking at these places, we're listening to YouTube videos and podcasts and stuff, and we're listening to your feedback and we're thinking about y'all, right? We're in there with the trenches with you. We're playing most nights too. I haven't hit Legend yet. I'm close. I think I'm in Fabled now.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not doing too bad. But thank you very much for picking up Forsaken. Thank you very much for playing Gambit. Man, at Guardian Con, we had people coming from literally all over the country and world to check it out for the first time.
We had a booth at Guardian Con, and we had some people that came up to us that waited in line 5 hours twice to play.
They showed us that timer on their phone. Yeah,
they
man.
did.
The two guys from Miami said they went both days 4 to 5 hours each day just to play it again.
It's wild.
It was amazing.
It's
got
incredible.
An awesome community.
Yeah,
we really do.
Yeah, and it's one of those things where it's we're so heads down making the game, and then when we get to do things like E3 and Guardian Con, or even talking to you guys right now, it just kind of validates why we do what we do. It's not that we don't necessarily, we're not doing it necessarily Like, we do this for people. We make games for people. We make games because we grew up playing games and playing amazing experiences. And when we get to see everyone react to them, it really does make waking up every day and coming to work a lot easier.
It's
That's awesome.
That's
awesome.
Yeah. I would say I'm going to add one thing. I highly recommend turning your HUD off and playing the game with your HUD off. I'm serious.
Oh,
Especially
really?
if you play on
Hardcore
PC,
Gambit. Let's go.
no.
4K, 60 frames. Just try it. Just trust
Oh
me.
no,
Oof.
I'm scared
That's it.
already.
Talk about immersion there.
Cooley
a lot of fun.
must be working on some of his triumphs.
You probably want to have
I don't know.
blackout on while we're doing that too, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
No radar?
Yeah, give it a shot.
Oh,
yeah,
And I
God.
get
tune
punched in the back by
Sounds terrible.
It's scary.
All right, guys. Well, thanks again for stopping by. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us,
Appreciate
guys.
All right, guys. We'll be back right after this. All right, well, welcome back, guys. What do you think of that? What a good interview,
That was
right? I mean, those guys are
That was
fantastic.
fun. Yeah, that was a lot of fun, man. It was
Unbelievable.
great for me to learn solo strategies. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
I'm like, hey, we should get a freelance playlist, or would you consider it? But, you know, they're right. I mean, I don't really look at what the other people are doing. I'm so focused on I got to kill, collect modes.
Yep.
Where I really should be looking at what my other teammates are doing and kind of figure out what my role is, rather than just doing this. You know, the definition of insanity: repeating the same thing over and over and expecting.
Right. There's two amazing things that came to me from that. One was how the evolution was. Like, I read in that article about the glass wall they were going to put that you could see the other team
In the PC game article you're talking about, right?
But then, in Gambit. So, but then to go to, well, look, you're always ADSing and you're trying to kill things. You're not really looking over at the other team, and they scrapped that wisely and came up with another way to make it more effective and do the invading thing. Like, that insight is just so great. Listening to the design stuff and it's just, man, it's so cool. That was so much fun.
I was like, dude, I mean, I love just, it shows how much playtesting is important to it.
Yeah.
All of that came through playtesting, putting it out there. Is it fun? If this isn't fun, we're going to take it out. We're going to put something else in. And to hear the evolution of the game mode, it wasn't like one day they just sat down and wrote on a piece of paper and everything was in place the way we have it now.
This. Right.
There were so many different iterations that went through. And honestly, it's probably going to continue to evolve as time goes on, and I think that's what's exciting. I mean, hell, if you're a Destiny player, we've been on this road of evolution for the last 4 years as it is. So I think that's just great. It's kind of just to see a game nowadays just kind of basically develop before our eyes is awesome. But those guys are great, Robbie and Coolie. And for anybody out there, not to go back to months ago, but anybody that ever thought, Bungie, what are they doing? Man, these guys have been listening the whole time. You can hear the passion in both of their voices for what they do. And, I'm glad that this game mode is out there and that people are very excited to play it and are having a lot of fun. It's awesome.
Amazing. Yep.
So, big thanks to those guys for stopping by. Who knows? That probably won't be the last we either hear from them or some other people at the studio. So keep it locked. Guys, real quick here before we move on to some quick news bits here at the end of the show, I want to thank our other sponsor here, and that's Gamer Goo. You guys have heard us talk about them before. You're gooing it. That's right. Gamer Goo is a great anti-perspirant you can put on your hands when you're playing those sweaty Gambit matches or sweaty Crucible matches or whatever your game of choice is. It's a great product. You put it on your hands. It actually doesn't leave really a residue. I told you here before on the show, I hate putting lotion on my hands because I just hate that kind of greasy feeling you get. Put this stuff on, it dries, you barely feel it, and it keeps your hands dry when you're playing.
Man, a little dab will do you too. Like, I put too much on the other day, and I was like, "What am I gonna do? Rub this up my arms? What's going on?"
Yeah, gotta be
and it
careful.
washes
Don't put
off
too
easy
much.
too, man, which is
Yeah,
cool.
it
You
does.
can soap and water, takes it right off. It lasts about up to 4 hours. You put this stuff on. They have 3 different flavors. I always call them flavors. Scents. They got cinnamon. They got the orange, and they got peppermint. It's great to wear when you're having those matches. So if you're interested in it, go to gamergoo.com. You can get a free trial over there, or use our promo code Guardian. Get yourself 10% off an order. But we highly recommended it. And I'll be honest, I was thinking the other day, I'm like, what? If everything we have here on the show when it comes to sponsors, like the one rule I always had was like, I would never push something on the show that I wouldn't use myself.
Something that I wouldn't use, correct.
And I literally now use Gamer
do
all the time. I love it.
I've told you I used it when I was moving. Just help me not sweat. Hey, one thing I will say, I would like that if people do make an order and they use it, send us a text or a tweet, I should say, or a message or an email let us know and let us know what you think of it.
We had somebody email us saying they did. It. They tried.
I want to hear from the audience. Yeah, I want to hear from people that are listening. That if you try it, let us know what you think. We really like to hear that. I really would.
So again, if you're interested, go to gamergoo.com. You get a free trial over there, or you can use our promo code Guardian. Get yourself 10% off your order, and you can find that link, of course, in the show notes. So big thanks to Gamergoo again for helping sponsor the show. All right, let's talk about some of the news briefly here, guys. We're going to kind of get some quick bits here because this show is going to run long if we don't.
Yep.
But Festival of the Lost launching. By the time many people hear this, it is already out. A couple of exciting things coming to it. We actually had a trailer that was put out today, like a 1-minute trailer showing off the masks. We're getting the masks back again. Which, by the way, we're getting the paper masks, so we're going to have a caged chicken mask, which is hilarious. But one of the big pieces we're all going to be chasing is this curated Bungie roll of the horror story legendary auto rifle.
Auto rifle, yeah, baby.
This thing's going to have what? Zen Moment and Rampage.
Yeah, so it's kind of like it's a spin on origin story. Obviously, this is horror story. So probably that was the only auto rifle I ever used for my kinetic slot for all of year one. So to have a better version of it, tier 10 Masterwork. I'm just wondering, can I get it on all 3 characters, or is it going to be account based?
Ooh,
by the time this episode goes live.
They don't say that. Yeah, I don't know that.
But there's going to be lots to do because we have a new playable space, which is going to be the Haunted Forest.
Dude, the Haunted Forest. I'm so fired up. It makes me think like I go with Harry Potter. Like, are we going to be... Where are we going? What are we doing?
Well, what they're doing is they're taking the Infinite Forest and making it haunted, which is different than we've ever seen them do before. Because we've always said the Infinite Forest was an amazing concept at when he first created it, but when it came to fruition and we all played it, we kind of just, we burned through it when we run through a strike.
We hope for more.
So now you could play, I believe it's up to 15 minutes.
15 minutes you get,
The longer you survive, the harder it gets, and we'll be farming and doing these daily bounties for Amanda, and we'll be getting these fragmented souls, which I think will be used to buy the masks and also get this weapon. But, people are saying people are asking me, at least on Twitter, is this Festival of the Cost? And it doesn't seem like that.
No.
When you level up, you get double engrams, right? So you're going to get one of the new bright engrams or whatever they're called now.
Engrams.
And then you get the ephemeral ones. And look, guys, I mean, I have 30-something thousand worth of bright dust. And I feel like ever since they made the changes to Eververse, I haven't bought anything with real money because they changed the way everything works. You play the game, you get the stuff. And they even said in the This Week of Bungie from last week, or the announcement of Festival of the Lost, there is a knockout list. So for the loot pool for the Festival of the Lost, if you get something, you don't have to worry about getting that next engram. Just make sure you load up on those Fire Team medallions that you get from tests. Keep them popped at all times. Use the well-rested bonus XP that you get, and you should be able to get everything and have fun. But they do have them there if you want to buy them, of course.
The thing that I'm interested in the Haunting Forest. So we have 15 minutes. There's a timeline, obviously. So is there an end boss? I mean, I know they showed a picture of a big dude, kind of looked like Alakul with the axes, or one of those guys that's in the Ascendant thing with the axes. Is there going to be an end boss you have to kill before the 15 minutes?
I don't know. I think they just say descend as deep as you can. Well, as you descend deeper,
you'll have 15 minutes to dive as deep as you can into the Haunted Forest and clear out the nightmares lying in wait. Be wary, the deeper you go, the more difficult your job will become. What I'm curious as to is if there's an end boss that you have to...
Well, you know what I wonder, Kato, because there's some games, like a game that comes to mind and a game that Destiny is kind of built after to some extent is Phantasy Star Online, and that had a boss rush mode.
Right.
And basically what you would do, you would just go in, and the way that game was built, they had 4 tile sets, essentially, like a desert, a space spot, a wilderness or forest spot, and each one had a boss at the end. Well, the boss rush mode was you basically fought one boss, moved on to the next one. I wonder if it's like, hey, here's 15 minutes. Sure, you got maybe a couple tiny little ads, and then you fight the Alakul boss, and then a couple little ads, and then the next boss. So it just becomes how many of these big bosses can we take down in 15 minutes? So it's kind of those smaller infinite forest spaces, before we get to that first door.
Right.
But then at that door is a giant boss. So it's really like you're just consistently fighting these big bosses just over and over and over. And how
the other question is what is this power level going to be?
Right. Well, the thing is, if I get a feeling you're going to have to go in there and wear a mask, and that mask more than likely is going to be like the other Festival of the Lost, where you'll have 10 power or something on it, where you're going to drop your power level down, which means everything's going to hit a little bit harder, I think.
Yeah, that's true. I didn't think
we'll have to see how it. Yeah,
I hope that's the case, because I've been so busy over the last 3 weeks just with work that I haven't gotten to continue doing my Ascendant things, and I'm still a little lower power than I would like to be. So I hope that's the case. Although I know that there is some powerful stuff that's going to be coming from these rewards with these bounties and stuff. So,
right, for Iron Banner, every bounty is going to give you powerful gear. Thank God.
But but is that going to be a 1-2 tick up thing? Probably. It's not going to be an ascendant type.
That's a good question.
Gear.
Yeah,
it's going to be a 1-2 tick up thing, which is fine. But that's one of those deals. Like I've literally run into the problem where I've gotten crazy busy. It's season and I'm in Naples and everybody's coming down here, but I haven't had the time to play that I normally have, and so I haven't gotten to level up to where I would like to be. So I'm a little worried about where my gear drops are going to be and different things like that. So I'm just kind of worried about that a little bit.
Yep.
Okay.
Real quick about the Infinite Forest. One of the other things coming tomorrow is for those people who were unsure about buying Forsaken because you then had to buy the expansion pass.
Right.
If you buy Forsaken, the $40 Forsaken, you're getting the expansion pass, basically. So you will get Curse of Osiris and Warmind. So that is changing. And basically to kind of compensate to some extent, veterans, as they're calling them, everybody's going to get 2 emotes. You're going to get the Knife Trick emote and the Coin Flip emote, as well as a unique emblem and shader and some consumables. So Fire Team,
you
Medallion,
guys
Vanguard
both
Medallion.
being band guys, did you see the new guitar emote?
It's pretty sweet.
Yeah, I did see that. It was pretty cool.
I figured, I was like, okay, I got 2 band guys on my podcast here. They're gonna die. They're gonna die for this. Guitar.
I definitely want it for sure. Yeah.
But talking about the Infinite Forest, that's why they had to do this, because pretty much, what do they say? I mean, it's been months ago when they said that. They wanted everybody to be able to partake in every seasonal event of Destiny, whether you own the expansion pass or the expansion, whatever. Yep. They have to give everybody this expansion, essentially, because it's like, to take part in it, you have to own Curse of Osiris, right?
Right. Yeah.
So that's kind of why I think they went ahead and made this move, and it's good. I think it's a right move. And I know some people are like, "Oh, I spent the money." Come on, man.
No, smart.
You've been playing the game for 2 months now. Let's move on. Or a month now, 1 month and a half, whatever it is. So you're good. The thing that has me the most excited though is this murder mystery. We're gonna have a murder mystery here. I think we talked about it a little bit last week with Master Ives. He's been struck down. Yep. We see this memoriam to him. But the interesting bit is the hunt for his killer is not going to actually start until October 30th.
Yeah, so the final week.
Yeah, so it's kind of interesting. Like, are we going to go in and see it and kind of maybe get some hints as to what maybe is going on? And then we're going to basically get a quest line where you can earn an additional powerful reward each week. And that's going to all begin on October 30th.
Well, I think they had to do it that way because there's going to be so much to do with Festival of the Lost that to throw that in there as well is going to be like...
True.
Yeah. Too much,
Too much
so now we've got something else like, cool, we got Festival of Lost, but I still have something to look forward to right at the end of this. You know what I mean? It's like, it's beautiful the way that they're doing this, and they're keep giving us stuff to do as we go along. It's great.
Yeah, definitely. All right, well, that's pretty much it for the news, guys. Kind of a quick hit on the news, but again, by the time any of you are hearing this, you're playing Festival of the Lost, so none of this is really new to you. But we do want to wrap the show here with just one quick email here. So again, email us, feedback@theguardiansofdestiny.com. Tell us what you thought of the interview with Robbie and Coolie. We'd love to hear your thoughts. But this email we thought would be kind of interesting. This one is from Diablo753, and he says, Guardian Radio, I am emailing you in hopes of commenting on a topic you discussed last week, especially I was intrigued by your thoughts on our DPS potential during the raid. It seemed towards the end of the episode there was general agreement that capping a DPS phase utilizing the immune mechanic was a good way ahead. In my humble opinion, I don't know if this is a good idea. In fact, I would argue that there isn't anything wrong. I want Bungie to let us go ham. What good is grinding for a weapon if its potential is limited by a new mechanic? I get excited for a weapon like the Kello shotgun because I know its capabilities. I know that my character will get a power spike by using it. Regardless, thank you for your dedication to the game, the community, and this podcast. Diablo753.
Shawnee, you take this one first.
What do you think?
Well, I mean, is he referring to the Riven cheese that we could just...
Yes,
pretty much.
We were talking about. Yep. Yeah, we were talking about just burning them down. The first floor, boom, done, gone.
All right. I personally think it's lame sauce just because I feel like it's a fun fight that was designed to be a fun fight and is completely doable and teachable and learnable. And the WTF Game Nation guys over on Twitch do ragecations and they have really detailed guides of it. And they could teach a scrub like me how to do it and understand all the symbols because it looks intimidating when you see all the symbols, but you don't have to memorize any of the symbols. Someone's going to call out dragon pointing an arrow looking left. Then you call it out, stand over on on the left-hand side, and you're fine. It's a fun encounter. But like I said in my review video of the raid, we live in a society where everyone wants everything instantly, and they don't want to do anything. So if Bungie was to put that immune thing in it, then it would basically, those people would have to then learn how to do it, kind of like the Crota cheeses. But I do understand there is a lot of people that don't have the time commitment to do a full raid, and I get that. My just take is, look, they designed it to be a encounter with multiple mechanics and a fun factor to it. If you want to bypass that fun factor, hey, I'm not going to tell anyone what to do or not do, but it's really up to Bungie and how they feel the community reacts to people doing, the rocket cheese or whatever.
Yeah. Agreed. So what I would say to that is, so when did Destiny 1, I don't remember off the top of my head, I should probably go look at one of my posters behind me, but when did Destiny 1 drop?
2014, September 8th or 14th?
September of 2014. So we've been playing this game for 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
The best experience, and it's still, I think about it all the time. The best experience I ever had was in the raid, multiple raids, either Crota or whatever raid it was, where we were doing the mechanic and working together as a team to get this thing accomplished that was really freaking hard, right?
Yeah.
And when we got it accomplished, the feeling of accomplishment that you had, that you just accomplished this with this team and you communicated and you did this stuff together. I mean, we just had Robbie and Coolie on talking about team and how this game was made to be social. And that's what sets it apart from any other game that I've ever played. And I was a WoW person and we did raids and whatnot, but it was just not the same. The communication and the things that you need to do it effectively and do it right is second to none. Do I love being OP occasionally? Hell yeah, I do. And I get that. And Ike loves shotguns, and I'm a shotgun guy too. Yes, I get it. Go just blow the boss away. Mark and I, or I think it was, Mark and I and Strider, we just did a Nightfall, and we melted that one. What was that boss that we melted before he even... Arms Dealer. We melted him and it was done. It was great. And you felt great and you got accomplished and you feel overpowered and it's awesome. And I get that. But in the raid specifically, at least do some of those mechanics to jump around and be communicative with your team and do that thing that makes you feel like you accomplished something, other than just OPing the crap out of the boss and you burned him in 10 seconds. Yeah. That's where we're coming from. So,
but again, I do see Diablo's point, and I mean, I see both sides of it. Like the first initial time doing the mechanics is so satisfying and great. However, there's something to be said for fun of not even necessarily just burning the boss and kind of let's take it outside the raid. I always like in RPGs or MMOs when you can go to those lower level areas and just melt everything.
Just one shot everything. Right.
It's so great sometimes to do that. And I think that's where Diablo's kind of coming from, saying, let me go ham. Absolutely. Like, I did the work. I got the weapons. Hell, we had to communicate. You use this subclass. You do this. You do that. You do this. And we were able to kind of game the game, if you want to say, and burn the boss down. Now, the problem is if that's the only way that people know how to do the raid, and then when they implement this like immune mechanic or something like the immune mechanic they were saying, and then suddenly they don't know how to do it, it's like, well, you can't really be mad at that point because that wasn't how it was originally intended. That's cool, you guys did it and you had fun, but now you got to do it the right way. So
no, I totally
see both points,
and I love being OP too, just like everybody else does. It's so much fun just going around and poning, either in PvP and you're leveled up higher than everybody else in Iron Banner and you're smoking people, or you're in PvE and you're just wrecking things, or you're just going down to, we used to go down just to the Cosmodrome and just smoke everything and do bounties and stuff. It was so much fun, and I totally get that. But when you're talking complete high-end end-game mechanics, the toughest thing that's supposed to be happening in this game, you should not be able to kill a boss in 10 seconds.
Yeah.
I mean, you should be able to get to the point where you can do it more efficiently and faster, I think, because that's the whole concept. We're getting stronger. It should show. But to be able to melt it within seconds is a little crazy. All right. Well, again, guys, email us feedback@theguardiansofdestiny.com. Give us your feedback on Robbie and Coolie, what you guys thought, and kind of your feelings on the state of Gambit, and maybe some things you want to have changed moving forward. But all right, guys, so we're looking forward. Festival of the Lost this week. You guys looking forward to it?
Yep.
I think Sean, what do you got going on in terms of streams, man?
I don't think it's Festival of the Cost. I think it's
no.
I think it looks really good the way they're doing it. You can get anything from playing, and I'm really looking forward to it.
I'll probably I'll do my weekly reset video going over what's new, and then I'm debating whether I'm streaming or not. It just all depends. I'll ask in my weekly reset video if folks want to see me stream the haunted forest and whatnot.
Cool.
You should, dude. You should. I think
Definitely.
you
Yeah, definitely.
And we, of course, will be live next week. So if you want to catch the show live, youtube.com/MesaSean, you can catch it there. You can also always catch the podcast in rerun, if you want to call it, or watch it at your leisure on demand at youtube.com/MesaSean. And, of course, you can find us on every podcast service out there, iTunes, Podbean, whatever your podcast service of choice. You can find us there. And follow us on Twitter at Guardians of D. And other than that, guys, thank you again so much here, as always, for making us a part of your week. And with that, we'll catch you next week. Later.
Death heals Primeval.
Death heals Primeval.